We now have a good base to build on with our mobile styles now looking better. The next stage is to widen the browser and decide a width where our design starts to break or no longer look good. This of course is a matter of opinion and personal preference, but if we go to the browser and open up the developer tools, we can then start to widen the browser. So let's go down to inspect, and then let's start to stretch the browser to a size which no longer starts to look good on wider devices. So let's say when we get to about 800 pixels and start to scroll down, we'll see our design starts to look a little stretched. So now may be a good idea to put a media query in place at 800 pixels. And then rather than one product being too stretched, we can maybe put two products side by side. Scrolling up to the top, we can also see that this search is looking a little stretched too, so we can also fix this. So over to our styles.css, let's give us a bit more space, and then go down to the bottom. Just like we've seen earlier, we can use the @media rule, and then inside of the brackets, we can set the minimum width to be 800 pixels. So let's begin with the input with the type of search, and this is the one for the header. Then inside of here, remember we set the value to be 100% wide. We can now override this on the larger screens and set the width to be 40%. Give that a save, and then reload. So this now leaves enough space for the search and also the links to be in line. But at the moment they're a little bit too close together. This can be fixed by adding a little margin on the left hand side of the input. On the left hand side. And this can be 2ems, which is 2 times the size it would normally be. Save and then reload. And there's a little bit of spacing now between the links and the search. This now makes the header look a bit better. So now down onto the products. Currently the product looks a little too stretched, so it may look better with 2 products on each row. So remember in the last video we commented out inside the product section the display type of inline block, which we had just here. So instead I'm going to cut this out of place and then add this inside the media query and then go down. So inside the media query we need to again target the dot product and then paste in our display type of inline block, and make sure all these styles which we're adding still are within the opening and closing tag for this media query. And then over to the browser and then refresh. So we don't see much of a difference because still we have our product set to be 100% wide. We can also override this in the media query by setting the width, and I'm going to add 2 onto each row by setting a width of 50%. So refresh, and we see this still has the same problem of each product on a new line. We can change this by narrowing the product slightly to account for any margin or padding which is added. So let's start with 49%, and still not enough. Let's try 48%. Excellent, we now have 2 products on each row. And now if we shrink the browser down to under 800 pixels, we'll see we have the product at 100% wide, and then over 800 pixels, it changes to be about 2 on each row. So this is now looking good on smaller and medium-sized devices. And in the next video, we'll finish things off by adding back in the styles which we commented out earlier into a media query for desktop size screens.